The Rune Heretic Writings. Why is this particular item considered illegal? In this video, I'm going to detail where you can find it, how much it's worth, and explain some of the fascinating lore behind it. There are a total of 7 types of contraband in Starfield. The 7 types of contraband are black market antiquities, harvested organs, mech components, sentient AI adapters, stolen artwork, xeno-warfare tech, and the Rune Heretic Writings. And it's this last one of the Rune Heretic Writings that most people probably haven't thought about their implications. The Rune Heretic Writings are not to be confused with the Rune Scripture, which grant your character a permanent stat upgrade, and they are fairly straightforward. There are 10 Varun scriptures in total, and they'll give you a % increase on weapon damage or greater carrying capacity. But we're talking Varun Heretic Writings here, and these are way better because number 1, they are farmable, so you can grab an endless amount of them, and 2, they can be sold for lots and lots of credits. And as we are about to discover, they have a fascinating lore behind them. Now, contraband, as you may already know, exists in Starfield as a sellable resource. In other words, it primarily exists to be sold. When you find it, you can take it to a vendor and exchange it for thousands or even tens of thousands of credits. But there is a catch: it is considered illegal, and if you're caught with contraband on you, you will be sent to prison. The same goes for the Rune Heretic Writings. But why is this particular item considered illegal? After all, as the name implies, it's just writing. It's not an illegally harvested organ, it's not precious stolen artwork, and it's not some kind of outlawed technology. Making the Rune Heretic Writings illegal is like making a book illegal, and that, you could argue, amounts to censorship. So it got me thinking, why is this specific type of contraband illegal? Well, one theory as to why the Rune Heretic Writings are considered contraband in Starfield is that it's disturbing propaganda so extreme that it should not be read by anyone. Hence why the UC branded it as contraband. An analogy you could apply to this is if the US government branded some writings by terrorist group ISIS as contraband. You could imagine that if you were found to have accessed some of this material, you would get it confiscated. But there is a flaw in this theory. Propaganda alone is never really enough to attract the eyes of the law. For instance, if one of America's enemies drew a political cartoon portraying a US president as an idiot, and you were caught with that cartoon, that's not really enough to get you locked up. So the second theory is that the Rune Heretic Writings are more dangerous from a military standpoint. Now, we have to speculate here because there's nothing actually in the item description letting you in to this item's contents. And another theory is that maybe they're schematics to some sort of super weapon, or they reveal vital tactical details on the UC. Whoever reads them, or whoever spreads that knowledge, could therefore learn how to take down the entire government. Now, this one is a bit more believable to me. You could liken it to a terrorist training manual. One analogy here is a historic book called The Anarchist's Cookbook. The Anarchist's Cookbook was first published in January 1971 by a guy called William Powell. It contains instructions for the manufacture of explosives, rudimentary devices to mess with telecommunications, as well as instructions for the home manufacture of drugs such as LSD. All very, very naughty. At the time of its publishing, the CIA and the FBI actually attempted to track whoever checked out the book from libraries. However, here's the key thing: these institutions failed. After heavily scrutinizing the Anarchist's Cookbook, the FBI and the CIA concluded that it could not be regulated as it was published through mass media. In other words, the book is protected under the First Amendment. And that is despite a lot of it being accurate, including the chapter on how to make explosives. So what do we learn from this historic example, and how do we apply that to Starfield? Well, from what I can see, even a book as inciting as the Anarchist's Cookbook, one that literally tells you how to make a bomb, wasn't able to be made illegal by the US government. So that means if Varun heretic writings are a similar sort of thing to the anarchist's cookbook, it wouldn't be made illegal either. That leads me on to my next point. If Varun heretic writings aren't a sort of terrorist or anti-government training manual, what else could they be? Another theory is that they actually aren't that bad by most standards. Varun heretic writings could actually only be deemed contraband by one group, and that's House Varun themselves. To be more specific, the writings were likely written by a fringe group of Varun called the Zealots. They might be the mad scrawlings of zealots trying to justify the Serpent's Crusade. If you've forgotten what that was, the Serpent's Crusade was instigated by House Varun in 2240 to exterminate all non-believers in the settled systems. The conflict lasted until 2263 when House Varun founder and leader Jinan Varun died and his son took over and negotiated a peaceful settlement. And he did that with the UC and the FC. So after the Serpent's Crusade, House Varun had to clean up its image and claim that these zealots are heretics and that they're going against the teachings of Jinan Varun. As a result, in a show of good faith and because of the treaty between the UC, FC and House Varun, everyone has come together and deemed the writings contraband. Because Varun doesn't like them, everyone has agreed to ban them. From the UC and the FC standpoint, you could argue they pretty much don't care about the content of the writings. In fact, any information pertaining to House Varun would be important. Not only would the UC and the FC not want to ban the writings if it was up to them, they'd actually want more of them. This would be their window into a secretive culture. There might even be collectors out there who would want a piece of Varun culture. So if anything, Varun heretic writings should be valuable both to the UC and the FC. They don't want to ban them, but they have to because House Varun want to, and the three are now bound by a treaty. So again, there's nothing in these writings that are going to convince outsiders to join the cause. They're not dangerous from that perspective because Varun ideology is pretty inaccessible and it's not appealing to outsiders. So they're not dangerous enough to ban. The problem is House Varun wants to ban them, and to keep the peace, everyone else is on board. So that's the first part of this particular theory, but it just raises a second question. How does banning heretical writings actually work? How does a book show up during a ship scan? How do you even tell a computer to scan for signs of heresy? It could be, and this is a jump, but stay with me here, there could be some kind of low-level radiation on the paper, and this is what shows up during the scan. Maybe the writings themselves aren't contraband, but there's a material or chemical in them that is. This directly relates to a trait in Starfield called Serpent's Embrace. Serpent's Embrace grants a 25-point boost to your health and to your oxygen for 4 hours every time you make a grav jump. The official description for this reads, "You grew up worshipping the Great Serpent. Grav jumping provides a temporary boost to health and oxygen, but health and oxygen are lowered if you don't continue jumping regularly, like an addiction." End quote. So maybe the Varun heretic writings give people who are in possession of them strange powers that need to be controlled. Something even more powerful than the Serpent's Embrace, and if left unchecked, entire star systems could be plunged into an addictive state. That would leave them at the mercy of House Varun. Now, this does sound slightly unrealistic at first, but the more I think about it, the more I can get behind it. I just can't buy the government banning writing. A, because how do you scan for writing, as I mentioned? I get scanning for illegal tech and harvested organs, they could believably show up in a scan, but writing, that seems hard to scan for. The closest I can get to answering this is that maybe there are secret messages hidden in the text. Secret messages meant only for House Varun operatives and spies, and you need an encryption key to find it. The UC and the Freestar might have these keys, so they mark them as contraband to stop House Varun operatives and spies sending messages. That's a theory, but B, there doesn't seem to be free speech control happening anywhere else in the settled systems. By marking Varun heretic writings as contraband, the UC is effectively trying to police billions of people from communicating freely. And there's not another example like that in the entire game. This seems to be a one-off. It's the only literature in the whole of Starfield that is marked contraband. So it seems unlikely the UC and the FC is banning this based on the heretical content of the contraband alone. And just to sum up everything I've just said, my theory on why this item is considered contraband is that it either contains an element that harms anyone who possesses it, and this is what shows up on ship scans, or House Varun itself wants it banned for their own reasons, and both the UC and the FC agree to ban it in order to keep the peace. Or, you know, one final theory is that someone at Bethesda thought it sounded cool when creating loot. So that's the theory behind Varun Heretic Writings. Now where you can get it. Varun Heretic Writings is one of the random pieces of contraband you can get from the Almagest Casino. The Almagest Casino is found in the Olympus star system, which is east of Alpha Centauri. Dock at the Almagest space station near the planet Nisoi and climb aboard. Inside, head to the second floor where you'll find the Jackpot back-end terminal. The contraband cache is located behind the Jackpot back-end terminal, so head there and look inside. Open it up, grab your Varun Heretic Writings, and there you go. It is a random spawn, so you won't always get it, but there is a way to guarantee it shows up again and again, and you can keep on farming it. And that's by doing the age-old trick of sleeping, then coming back to farm contraband in the Almagest Casino. And not just the Varun Heretic Writings, but all the other types of contraband as well. You have to sleep for at least 306 hours in a separate location. And those are 306 hours of universal time. For that, head to Venus, where time passes much quickly in relation to universal time, and after you've napped, head back to the Almagest Casino. Upon arrival, you will find that the contraband's cache's contents have refreshed completely. That's a lot of C's. So too have all of the enemies, so expect another fight on your hands. If you return and there are no enemies, that means the contraband cache is completely empty, so go away, sleep some more, and come back. It's just a matter of time. Like all contraband, Varun Heretic Writings can be sold at trade authority vendors. The best one by far is the Den, which is in the Wolf system. The reason for that is you don't get scanned when entering, but any trade authority will do. There's the trade authority in the world underneath New Atlantis, there's one in Cydonia on Mars, one in Aquila, and one in Neon. So what else can you do with Varun Heretic Writings besides sell it for loads of credits and ponder the theories behind it? Well, one Reddit user called Captain Navidson found a use for it, and that's to use it in its own specific way. No respect for House Varun from this guy. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this latest video. I hope you learned at least a tiny bit about this interesting Starfield item, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more Starfield videos, and if you would help support this channel and help it grow by sponsoring me over at patreon.com/gaming with Griff Griffin.